Hi everybody, welcome back. I just want to first apologize. It's been forever since I've put out a video, and especially since I've been dealing with this code compliance issue, and I want to give you guys an update on that and keep you filled in. So I got a lot of catching up to do, so let me get to it. After I talked to you guys last time, I did receive a certified letter in the mail from the city outlining all the ways in which we are not in compliant with the code. I think they listed like 12 different issues that they had found. So pretty serious. Actually, let me back up 1 second to preface this. The reason why the city was out here in the first place and found the non-compliances was that we were applying for a chicken permit. So to have chickens in the city limits where we are, they just have to be permitted. So they were out to do an inspection of our chicken coop and area and just make sure it was all good. So then of course they saw the piles of mulch and front yard that was almost fully mulched. So some red flags went off in the code compliance officer's mind. So she, trying to do her job, investigating further, and she came up with about 12 non-compliances in our yard. So let's go back. Now we get the letter, and it's describing everything that is wrong with what we're doing, and of course there's the time frame. You got to have it done in a certain amount of days, and I think they gave us like 10 days to get everything done. And then after that they would start fining us like $250 a day for not being in compliance. Read the letter, we kind of did our homework, tried to look up all the paragraphs in the ordinance that they had quoted that we weren't in compliance with, so we read up on that. It turns out about 4 of them were just not an issue at all. They were talking about something that didn't even apply to us, about having a business with the piles of mulch. They think we were trying to run a business and use that as a part of our business. So like 3 or 4 of the non-compliances were just not valid at all. And then so reading into them, we really were not okay with what they were trying to do to us. One violation in particular, they quoted as, basically it says that your yard needs to either be fully sodded or fully sodded with landscape accent, or it can be xeriscaped. And when I first read the code language that they had quoted in the letter to us, they totally left out the word xeriscaped. All it said was your yard must be fully sodded or fully sodded with landscape accent. And by landscaping they mean like a bed with plants and some type of mulch or ground cover in it. So right away I kind of got aggravated that they were leaving stuff out because maybe it did apply to what we were doing, but they didn't really want it to. We rushed to the city hall and talked in person to the code compliance officer who was assigned to our case. She admitted, she's fairly new to the job. So we were able to talk to her about the stuff that didn't even apply, about owning the business. So she agreed, all that stuff she just dropped. And we whittled it down to a couple of items. One of them was we did have a couple of weeds that were above a foot tall, but I quickly took care of those, so those went away really easily. And then what it came down to really was the issue of this fully sodded yard. Now, anytime I talked to them in person or on the phone, they would always tell me your yard has to be majority sod. That's what I kept hearing from them. But like I said, in the actual language of the Code of Ordinances, it says it can be fully sodded, accented with landscaped, or xeriscaped. So nowhere in that language did it say anything about majority sod. So trying to, over the weeks work with them, the code compliance lady came back out and she took some pictures of what we were doing. In the meantime, I'm busting hump trying to get all the piles done and spread out, because that was one of their main issues, was just the piles. So that was my main focus, and that's kind of why I haven't been on YouTube in a while to make an update, is just I was so focused on getting the piles done. Any spare chance I had, I'm out there spreading mulch. So didn't really have much time to kind of like stop and make a video and edit and all that. So now I'm trying to play catch up. I'm at a point where I can, fill you guys back in on everything. So in the meantime, all this is really weighing very heavily on me. Of course, that threat of $250 a day fine is huge, right? That's extreme. And on top of that, I've put in all this work to spread this mulch and to get this system going that I obviously am passionate about and I feel is the best for growing food and the best for my family. So there's the thought of, oh golly, I'm going to have to go back up and tear everything up that I just did and, put a bunch of sod back in just so these people will get off my back. So inside I have a lot of stress and anxiety about what am I going to do? How am I going to make this right? I don't want to, I'm not here to break the law or whatever, so I want to make things right with the city. But at the same time, I felt deep down really like this system should be allowed. It should be okay to do this for lots of different reasons, and I'll get into those in a little bit. After the second visit, when she came back out and was taking pictures and we talked about things, I was walking her through the yard, trying to verbalize my plans about, having the yard fully mulched, and then planting a bunch of trees and shrubs and other plants, and having it kind of like winding pathways where it'd be like a nice botanical garden feel, where you can walk in and just be surrounded by living plants, and in my case they're all going to be fruit producing plants. So after walking her through the property the second time and she got all her pictures, she kind of went back to work on that, and her main thing to me was, your yard's got to be majority sod. And I told her, I said, listen, if this is really what it's going to come down to, that you're forcing me to have a yard that's majority sod, I still said I'm not okay with that, and I will fight it. I will try and do everything I can to not have to have a majority sodded yard, because the only really good reason why you would have that is just to be in conformance with every other yard in the neighborhood, just to have a kind of like uniform look of just all green grass everywhere, and just to go with the status quo, like I'm not really okay with that. So I told her, I'm going to fight it if this is what it comes down to. So that was all around like the holidays, Christmas time and everything, so it got kind of weird as far as the timing goes, where they were closed down for the holidays, and I got some time off of work to do some other things, like building a playground for the kids in the backyard, and I didn't really get much time to work on the yard. So then I just got really uncertain on what I should tell her when I contact her next time, and what I should say, because I don't want to sound like I'm threatening them, and I was just hoping like maybe she would call me up and say that everything's going to be okay, but it never really happened. So that uncertainty kept lingering and anxiety kept growing about this whole situation. And in the meantime, I was able to share my story with a family friend who happens to be a civil engineer. He got really interested in the story, and he came out to my house to kind of look at what I'm doing, and he brought some things to my mind, to light, that was really good to know, and kind of give me some ammunition for talking to the city with. The back of my house, it butts up against a little retention pond, and it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the neighborhood behind me. But anyway, this retention pond flows directly into a little creek that in turn flows into the Indian River, and there's a lot of support and a lot of lobbying to keep the Indian River in good condition and not pollute it, because we refer to it as a lagoon here. There's a lot of talk about being lagoon friendly, not letting chemicals and stuff wash down on the road, because that'll flow directly into the lagoon. So he brought that to my attention, and it was really good, because thinking about the system that I'm using is going to be so beneficial for saving the lagoon and not polluting the environment, because I'm not going to be out there spreading fertilizer once or twice a year, spraying herbicides to take care of various weeds, and I'm not going to be doing all these things that cause negative effects to the lagoon. So he said, this engineer guy said, really the city should be championing you on this adventure and supporting what you're doing, and kind of using it as an example of like, hey, here's an alternative thing that you can do to your yard and be extremely lagoon friendly, and at the same time, or use your yard space to be productive. So then I started kind of formulating some ideas and getting them down in a presentation, as far as like what my argument is for my case, to try and get them to just get off my back and let me keep doing what I'm doing. So at this time I'm starting to feel better about the whole situation, and starting to feel like, I got a leg to stand on now. In the meantime, while that's going on, my wife went back to the cities, and she's going to apply for a fire permit, because we have a fire pit in the backyard and we want to burn some stuff, and that was one of the issues they had, is that we were having fires but didn't have a fire permit. And yes, to burn fires in our city recreationally, you still have to have a permit. There you go. So she went there to go get the permit, and she actually ran into the code compliance officer that was assigned to our case. And so they got to talking in the elevator, and they actually went into an office and had a side session with her and her boss, and basically they're saying our case is being discussed between the city council members and public defenders or something, and they're kind of not in agreement with how to pursue this. So there's actually people there that are kind of working for us that I didn't even know about. How amazing is that? After my wife's encounter there at the city, what it's come down to essentially is, of course, they want to see the piles gone. Obviously, I do too, just as much as they do. And secondly, they want to see a landscape design plan, basically kind of like an overview sketch of what the space is going to look like when I'm done. And kind of just so that they can actually confirm that what I'm doing is xeriscaping. So that was very exciting news. Very happy to hear that. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on this landscape plan, and I'll share it with you guys when I'm done. That's going to kind of map out my intentions for this whole yard and space. So I'm not completely 100% out of the woods yet, but it looks promising. It looks like I'm going to be able to, fully mulch my yard. as long as I'm putting plants in to populate it. They don't just want to see like, you know, a third of an acre of all mulch, and that was never the intention. So I don't know why they thought that's what I was doing. I think that's why they were kind of pursuing this case so hard and kind of being a little firm with me. But that's not the case. There's going to be plenty of plant material. There it is. That's the update. That's part 2, and I will do a final update on how everything ended up. I'm sorry it took so long, and I just want to sign off saying, from my garden to yours, be blessed.